You're listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology.
Hello, everyone. Bob Keane here again. I am the editor-in-chief of the internationally renowned journal Fire Ecology. Fire Ecology is a journal that is published by Springer, but overseen by the Association for Fire Ecologists. And speaking of fire ecology, today we have a very important paper we're going to be talking about. I can't believe it. It's about lidar and its use in mapping fuels. And the main drawback of lidar is that the tree trunks get in the way. We're going to find out if those tree trunks do, in fact, get in the way. Today we have Igor and Olga here. Igor, can you introduce yourself?
Thanks everybody for joining this podcast. I'm Igor Drobyshev. I'm a researcher at Southern Swedish Forest Research Center, which is a part of University of Agricultural Sciences in Sweden. And I work with fires and tree rings and a little bit in between too.
Well, thank you, Igor, for coming. And Olga, how about you? Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. My name is Olga Wepryk and I'm a PhD candidate at the same institution, so Southern Swedish Forest Research Center at SLU in Southern Sweden.
Well, welcome both of you. I really appreciate the time you're taking to talk about this important paper. The name of the paper, or the title, is Tree Trunks Do Not Bias Estimates of Surface Fuels by Aerial LiDAR in Southern Sweden. Now, I've done a little LiDAR myself, and I know those pesky trees, not only the canopy, but also the tree trunks get away. So I can't wait to hear about this paper. Igor, do you want to give us a justification or why you did this paper and tell us a little about it?
Yeah, absolutely. The fundamental reason why we jumped into this field is because we're interested in fire behavior. And fire behavior has a very direct connection to what people are doing in the nature reserves in southern Sweden and actually across the whole Scandinavia nowadays. They're burning some of the nature reserves for biodiversity preservation, not so much for fuel management, which is probably something which will come in the future, but for biodiversity preservation to create charred habitats, to open the forest and allow all kinds of bugs and even trees to get established and live in these places. So we would like to know how fire behaves in these environments. We need a solid and rather trustable way to assess different fuel types which we have in this forest prior to the burns. To do so, we rather went into a more advanced technique, the lidar technology, which is extremely versatile and helpful, especially if you think large areas to be invented. And we wanted to know if there are some concerns we'll have to keep in mind when we do this type of fuel inventories. And one of these concerns is naturally the ground fuels, something which is extremely crucial in our case because most of the fires we work with are surface fires.
LiDAR is surely an important technology and it's going to be important in the future. Olga, can you talk a little about the methods, especially the way you did this study?
The methods of this study are unique because of two things. First of all, very high density point cloud, nearly 3,000 points per square meter, and also the field inventory, where we inventoried 4 different stratas and fuels within those.
Very interesting. So, Igor, can you give us a little sneak peek at what the results are of the study? What did you find?
Well, I probably shouldn't disclose everything, but I can tell you that the results are actually right in the title. So we can actually be quite safe in using LiDAR in gauging the fuels on the ground and being not so much concerned about the tree trunks, which in some cases could be an issue, but clearly not an issue, at least in our locations in southern Sweden. And I think this is a promising result because it effectively opens the door for using this very beautiful technology in production scale. We can advise forest managers to actually make use of this algorithm, this pipeline, and employ it in a very cost-effective way, and that will give us very solid estimation of how much fuels we'll have and even type of fuels and their distribution in space, which again, very helpful bit of information to have if you think of modeling fire behavior prior to actual fire.
Yeah, that is very, very exciting to see that indeed we can use LiDAR to do that. Olga, seems like the implications of the study go widely beyond just, fire management and whatever. Can you tell us what would be the most important implications of the results of the study?
This is something that Igor already slightly covered. So the best or the most important implication of our study, especially for the management, is that we can save time. We can simplify how LiDAR can be used for fuel mapping simply through not using the tree trunks, through not filtering them.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you both for coming and talking about this wonderful paper. We're so glad you published it in Fire Ecology. Igor, do you want to recognize any co-authors or funding agencies?
Yes, we would like to mention that we have our first author, Roman Zadrozhnyuk and Maxim Matsala, both Ukraine, who were driving force in this study. And we also want to thank Lamska Foundation and Carford Foundation, 2 organizations who funded us.
Thanks again, both of you, for coming and talking about this paper. We really appreciate it. For those of you who are interested in LiDAR and using it to map fuels, guess what? You can download this paper for free because these nice authors decided to pay the freight for downloading the paper. And guess what? We are an open source journal, Fire Ecology. So please, if this interests you, please download that paper and read all about it. I know there is much more that we did not discuss today, so there's a lot more meat on those bones. With that, I'd like to invite you to tune in to the next Fire Ecology Chats.
Thank you for listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our show and leave us a review. To learn more about fire ecology and support our future work by becoming a member, visit fireecology.org. FireEcology.org.